Hello everyone and welcome back to this month's Your Opinion is Shit, where my patrons get to have opinions about things. If you want an opinion, you can become a patron. This is pretty fun. It'd be pretty fun. Could be cool. Anyway, this month's question was, what is a piece of media that everybody seems to like that you do not like? So I asked my patrons that over on Discord, and we have some responses today. Let us see what they say. We have some spicy takes this time, let me tell you. First, for Gray Man. I know it's not, terrible or anything, but for the life of me, I just cannot get into Harry Potter. Every time I try, I just go, I don't know what... I've never seen SpongeBob. I don't know what noise he's making there. Obviously, it's popular for a reason, but I don't know, I just can't get into it for some reason, and hearing about drama going on with J.K. Rowling every other week doesn't help either. Yeah, I will say, back before all the J.K. Rowling drama happened, Harry Potter fans were still fucking annoying. Harry Potter... It's hard to describe Harry Potter because I definitely really liked it a lot when I was a kid. I think it influenced me a lot. I read the books probably 3 times through and watched the movies probably just as often. It was quite a big part of my childhood, but looking back on it, maybe it's just because I've been so overexposed to it, it kind of bores me at this point at the very least, regardless of all the drama with JKR. And then you include that and it just kind of feels shitty to support it, which is why Miceman and I feel no qualms about making fun of Harry Potter fanfiction on our podcast, The Word Reading Hour. You could go check that out on Spotify. I'm just being a fucking shitheel now. Shilling shitheel. Anyway, Gray Man, your opinion is not shit, for sure. Not shit there. For Madam, saying Skyrim as my answer feels a little cliche, but I think it really marks a big turning point for Bethesda. Some Bethesda realized they can make whatever buggy messes they thought they could advertise well, and people would just buy them on hype alone. I mean, they're still re-releasing Skyrim to this day, and people are still buying it. They haven't released another Elder Scrolls game since Skyrim came out in 2012. It's been 12 years! Or did Skyrim come out in 2011? Maybe it's been 13 years. Regardless, especially as someone who's played over 200 hours of Skyrim, it's not great. I was 13 when I stuck that much time into Skyrim, and I had no standards back then. I have since played much better RPGs than Skyrim. Yeah, no, I definitely hear you. Bethesda definitely as a company has gone way downhill since then. I think even Fallout 4 that was the game immediately released after Skyrim, has a lot of problems with it, a lot of obvious problems, and a lot of those problems with all of its games did definitely start in Skyrim. Not all of them, some of them were still there by Oblivion, but yeah, no, Skyrim was definitely the point where they realized that they had just the general public just on a little chain. For Inquisitor Thomas, honestly, it's kind of hard to come up with an answer because it feels like every piece of media of note has an obnoxiously loud anti-fandom. I feel like I would either go with something obvious and basic, that the hot take is room temperature, or so outrageous that I'd end up saying it for the sake of being contrarian. Maybe Warhammer 40k, but not for all the current reasons the 40k fandom is currently mad at 40k. It's way too focused on a grand total of 2 factions, Evil Space Marine versus Eviler Space Marines, while sidelining all the other factions as sidekicks at best and jobbers at worst, and oftentimes in the stories which side wins comes down to which flavor of Space Marine is the author's favorite pet faction. Also, it feels like the setting is stuck circling the Space Marine black hole because the Space Marines are the models that make the most money, meaning that more and more of the plot revolves around Space Marines and their stupid fucking daddy issues. That's so true. I work at a store that sells a lot of 40k. We are kind of one of the hub stores for the 40k community in my local area. Luckily, our store tends to not attract the type of people who are usually into 40k, but from what I'm aware of from the general crowd and general consensus, there are a lot of weird macho military men who really like Warhammer 40k, which means that the Space Marines are gonna get the most time and they're gonna sell the most models, which is so unfortunate because I like the Eldari. I think the Eldari are really, really cool. Then again, bear in mind, I don't know a whole ton about 40k. I know the basic lore, and I know the basics about most of the factions, but I have not, delving deep into it yet. But I totally agree that I think there are many, many, many interesting things and concepts you can deal with in Warhammer 40k. I think there's a lot going on in 40k, and it's really unfortunate that they mostly just focus on the different colors of Space Marines, even though they're kind of all the same, and they all do have daddy issues. You're very correct. Moving on to Tyrant, I never really got too invested in Star Wars when I was younger. I remember trying to watch the prequel movies and trying not to fall asleep. I only saw the original trilogy 3 years ago. Those ones are alright. I think years of being exposed to Star Wars pop culture and its influence sort of demystified those movies for me. Oh, for me, for sure. I was never like the hugest Star Wars fan when I was a kid. I definitely watched them. I've seen the only mainline Star Wars movie I haven't seen is the last one, is the 9th one, because at that point I gave up. As someone who's seen all the Star Wars movies, yeah, no, they have a fan base that is too rabid for how good those movies are. They're not bad. I actually like the prequel trilogy the best out of any of them. I'm also a little bit weird, and I like space politics. I think especially since the Disney takeover of the IP, we've been so inundated with new Star Wars content. And again, as someone who works in a location that sells a lot of Star Wars, I get it even worse than a lot of people do. There are so many people who are still rapidly crazy about Star Wars, and I don't really get it. I don't really get it, man. I think it's just a little bit boring. So, yeah, no, your opinion's not shit, for sure. Windy Fields! Real talk Marvel movies, just regurgitated formulaic slop. Preach it! Another Disney IP I want to see die! Now bear in mind, I think that there are some individual Marvel movies that are really good. The original Avengers movie is really good. Thor: The Dark World is really good. But that's because those movies had really good directors behind them. Joss Whedon and, I can never know how to pronounce his name, but the guy who did What We Do in the Shadows, did Thor: The Dark World. While there can be individual brilliance occasionally in these productions, most of them are so formulaic, and so this is what people want. We will bring them down the assembly line so that people will inevitably just go see them in the theaters, and we can just put the most CGI awful slop in front of them. And it sucks. It real sucks. And to be fair, I've always been more of a DC fan than a Marvel fan, so it's not really a lot of skin off my back, but and to be fair, they've made shitty DC movies, and I don't see them. Because I don't want to see how awful they are. And I remember back in the day when Marvel movies first started becoming a thing and the cinematic universe was first becoming a thing and it was all cool and it could ride off of that whole concept of the movies being connected together. I remember my friends and I were really into it. We saw a bunch of them in the theaters, and then right around the tail end of high school we just kind of stopped. The first one I didn't really see was Civil War, and I never recovered. I've seen a couple after that. I did see Black Panther, and I did see Thor: The Dark World, and I did see the other Avengers movies. I did see a bit of... I saw Endgame, but I didn't see the I didn't see, like, the last Avengers movie. And I haven't seen any of the Spider-Man ones. So, yeah, no, I totally agree. They're absolute slop. Okay, here's a hot take from Xander. Fallout New Vegas. I wanted to like it, I really did, but the controls and the combat feel so clunky, which means I end up dying more often than not, and then I get frustrated, so that makes me not want to play it. Why bang my head against the wall trying to like New Vegas when Fallout 4 is right there? Oh, this is a rough one, because on the one hand, I am the same, where I have consistently bounced off of Fallout New Vegas every time I've actually tried to sit down and play it. But also, I've watched video essays on it that talk about its brilliance. And I think a lot of the brilliance in Fallout New Vegas is in its writing and in its story and in its world building. And that's stuff that Fallout 4 just does not have. Fallout 4, I think, is probably the better game mechanically, but lore-wise and story-wise, Fallout New Vegas is far superior in every way. So I don't think your opinion is shit by any means. I think there's definitely something to be said for how clunky New Vegas feels to play, especially when you consider that, you know, Obsidian were kind of forced to use the Bethesda engine to make it, which is shitty in the first place, let alone if you're a third-party developer trying to use it. But yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong. I think New Vegas is really hard to get into. I do think that people who are rabid about it are rabid about it for legitimate reasons. So, And that's a note to end the video on for sure. But thank you for joining me as usual. I'll be back next month, hopefully. God, I hope I will actually be back next month for another Your Opinion is Shit. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good day. Farewell and goodbye. Special thanks goes out to my priests of the hog and my elder hog prophets, Adra, Chronoton, Eshok7, Greyman, Jonathan Hummel, Casey N. Moore, Ventus Agri, and Xavier Pena. Thanks again, guys.